Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to build a JavaScript game. Today we are going to be building a rock paper scissors game using JavaScript, and this tutorial is intended for anyone out there who has just finished learning JavaScript and is looking forward to building something very basic, something that is not so complicated. And so that is the tutorial that we're going to get into. So we're going to open up our VS Code and I'm going to attempt to go through these. We're going to create a simple basic HTML file, create also a CSS file for styling for our web page, and also we're going to create a script.js file where we're going to input our JavaScript. So in my VS Code I've already created a folder, and in this folder we're going to create a file, an index.html file. So from this you're going to create a basic web page, such a basic HTML file which comprises of the head section as well as the body section. From these, also in our file, we are going to create style.css, whereby we are going to write our code for the CSS which we are going to style our basic web page. And lastly, we are going to create a script.js file which is going to contain all our JavaScript. I am sure that if you're watching this tutorial, you've already learned about HTML and the best practices. When we want to incorporate a JavaScript file, the best practice is to install an external script.js file which we are going to tag along in our basic HTML page. And this is essential, and I'll explain why as we start coding. So we already have our basic index.html page. So what we're going to do first is link our style sheet. So we're going to link our style sheet. And our style sheet is style.css, so we're going to close that. Next, we are going to link our JavaScript file, which is done using the script tag, and my VS Code since here script tag. So here we're going to input our script.js file. This is already being suggested to me. And when we are loading our JavaScript file, it is in good practice to put a loading strategy. And the loading strategy which you're going to use is the differ loading strategy. So what does this differ mean? These differ loading, there are two types of loading strategies in JavaScript. There is the async loading strategy and there is the differ loading strategy. So the best practice is to use the differ loading strategy, because in the differ loading strategy, when our browser is reading our HTML file, when it comes across this JavaScript file, it doesn't stop the passing of the HTML file. So passing of the HTML file from the top to the bottom continues concurrently as our script file is also being downloaded. After all our HTML has been passed by the browser and all the JavaScript has been downloaded to, then execution of the script of the JavaScript file takes place. Unlike when we use async, here we can put async. It exists, so we can see async. So for this loading strategy, what happens when our browser is passing the HTML file? Once it encounters this script file, what happens is that it concurrently still downloads the JavaScript file together with the HTML file. However, once the JavaScript file has been fully downloaded, and for instance, the HTML has not yet been fully passed, this JavaScript file, this loading strategy results to blockage of passing of the remaining HTML file, so that the JavaScript can be fast executed. So this brings issues in matters loading of our web page, and that is not what we will want. So we need to, it is in good practice to put the differ loading strategy. So from here, we're going to create a basic, here we're going to name these, for the title we can call this JavaScript game, and we want to test and see whether our web page is being loaded. So I'm gonna put something simple as a hello, and here I'm going to go live. So this go live here is basically an extension which you can download from VS Code. So I know when I press this, it is going to go live, and it is going to take me to this created basic web page. So I expect to see that we're going to see this hello, and yeah, we get to see our hello over here. So we're going to create these from our body. We are going to put a main tag, and in this main tag we're going to incorporate a h1, which is going to be rock, paper, scissors. From here we're going to create a div, and in this div we're going to give this a class. I know if you've already gone through JavaScript, you've already learned JavaScript, you've talked about classes, you've talked about IDs. So for these, I'm going to give this a class of choices. Give this a class of choices, and for these, I am going to put 3 buttons. And for these 3 buttons, these are the ones which you're going to click, and they're going to make a selection whether it is going to be rock, paper, or scissors. So it's going to be something like this. I'm going to put a button, and within this button, I am going to load an emoji. Let's call it an emoji. But in my computer, I press the Windows, and the dot button is going to bring this up. So we can start with rock. Each and every time we are playing rock, it is usually a closed fist. So this could be rock, and that this will be perfect. And for these, we are going to put an event handler. I know if you've learned JavaScript, you've gone through the different event handlers, and the button usually has a specific a very good event handler, which is the on click. So this is what we are going to input here. I'm going to put the on click, and for this on click, I am going to put a function which you are going to create in our script tag. So we can put this function as play game. I'm going to say play game, and inside this play game, we are going to give this a parameter, an already defined parameter, a default parameter. Since we have a closed fist here, we're going to give these the parameter of rock. Wonderful. So each and every time we click this button, which contains this closed fist, we're going to be choosing the parameter of rock. So these will all make sense once we get to our JavaScript. So I'm going to copy these. I'm going to copy it down, because we also want to create 2 more buttons for paper. Here I'm going to put paper, and we're going to search the emoji for these. Paper is usually given by an open palm, so I'm going to select that. And then lastly, I'm going to have scissors, and for scissors, we're going to put an emoji of these. Perfect. It's going to be perfect. So we input that. After having these, I would want to have a place where I'm going to display what choice I have made, and what choice the computer has still made. So here I'm going to put another div, and for this div, I'm going to give this a class of let's give it a class of my choice. So what I'm going to put is player. Let's say player choice display, and let's put player, because I would want to style these. I would want to see how I'm styling these. I'm also going to create another div which is going to show what the computer has chosen. So put that there. I'm going to give this a class too of computer choice display. So we get that, and we would want to have another div which is going to tell us who has won the game or not after playing the game. So we're going to put another div here. I'm going to give this a class. I'm going to call this result display, or can give this a class of game result. Yes, game result display. We can put here something like player wins. So these are very basic HTML page, and we've created these. So let's see whether it is present, and you can see in my web page I have created these, and we have our heading, we have our buttons, we have the player choice, we have the computer choice, and then we have the result display. We're going to add a score down here once we've added our JavaScript, just to show the score of the player and also of the computer. So let's style this first. And for styling, we had already created our style.css page. So, and we had already linked it, so it is always good to check whether we've linked it. So if I say follow link, it is going to take me to my file. So we're going to start with the select all, or the universal selector. I'm going to say margin. Margin is going to be 0. Padding, sorry, if I only can type padding of 0, and then I'm going to have box sizing, which is going to be border box. Then I'm going to move on to my body. I will want my body to have a mean height of 100 viewports of height. I would want it to have a minimum width of 100%, and I would want these also to have maybe a padding of 2 rem. So let's see what happens. Our padding has been applied, is working perfectly. Then from our, remember, CSS is cascading style sheets, which means our styles are applied in a sort of cascading manner. So it is good to follow our how we've arranged our element tags, or our our tags or our elements in our HTML. So from our body we have the main. So for the main, I can have something. I would want to display all these here at the center. So can have something like display or flex. Can have a flex direction, which is going to be column, because I want my div tags to be in a column, not to be in a flex manner. I'm going to say align items, which is going to be center. So let's see what happens if we do this. Yeah, we've aligned all our items now to the center. We continue from here. We have our perfect. We have our H1. I would want to put these within a div. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna put these in a div. All these, I'm gonna put these in a div. Control X. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna copy paste these here. I'm going to give these a class. Class. We can say this is going to be the hold container. Hold container. Wonderful. So I'm going to come here. Remember, when we are putting our styles, so it's going to be hold container, and for these I can give these a margin, maybe margin bottom of 1.5 rem. I don't really need to put a margin, do I? no, let's move the margin. Let's get the display of flex. The display flex which we've put on our main, it centers our hold container. I would also want now to center all these within this hold container. So for this, we're going to put a display of flex 2, and I'm going to give these a gap of 3. So this doesn't seem to work. I'm gonna put a flex direction, which is going to be column. Perfect. And then I'm still going to align the items to the center so that they are all aligned. Perfect. So we're going to move on to the next, which is maybe we can style the H1. Can give this maybe a color of maybe red, just to rock paper scissors. Yes, that's okay. I would want to style these buttons, which are contained next in this div. So I'm going to have my dot choices button, and dot choices. So we're going to select all these buttons. So for these, we're going to have going to give these a good font size, a large font size. We want them to be visible. Font size of 7.5 rem. Perfect. I'm going to give these a border radius. And give them a big border radius of something like 250 pixels, just to ensure they get rounded. Wonderful. I'm going to give these also a background color. Give these a background color, not background repeat, but background color. Give them a background color of blue. However, I would want to reduce the opacity, make it a little bit perfect, maybe at 0.7. See how they look like. Yes, is perfect. Then the next thing is I would want to have a certain sort of effect, maybe the button gets brighter or lighter, and then we can also change the cursor to a pointer for these. So I'm gonna put cursor pointer. This is essential cursor. I'm gonna put this to a cursor pointer, and then I am going to put a transition, which is going to be all 0.3 seconds. Put this at ease in, out. Perfect. And then I am going to put still dot choices button with the pseudo select of hover, and once I hover, we'll do on the background color to change to blue. However, make it a little bit lighter, maybe at 0.4. Let's see what happens once we hover. There we go. Yes, wonderful. So this works perfectly. Next, let's see what we have. Next to style will be the player choice. So these words, they seem player. So let's style them to player choice display so that they can be visible. They are not visible right now. So it was dot player choice display. I'm gonna, and also dot player choice display, and also dot computer choice display. I'm going to give these a font size of 3 rem. Let's see how they appear. Perfect, wonderful. And then we can have the dot game result display. I would also want this to have a larger font size. Can give this around 3.5 rem. Yes, which tells us that the player wins. I don't like that margin which we've put over here. It's too much. But yeah, at least we can see that this works. So this is perfect. Wonderful. Now we're going to move on to our script file, our JavaScript file, and try and set up functions which are going to enable us such that when we click here, we'll want the computer to be able to make its own choice. And once we click, we are able to see our choice. We are able to see the choice of the computer, and then we are able to see between the player whether the player has won or the computer has won here. So I'm going to move on to a script tag. I feel like this is too much. I'm going to reduce this to maybe 1.8 rem and have this at 2 rem. Yeah, perfect, because I know we are still going to add the scores down here, and I would want to be able to see all these without having to scroll down. So let's move on to our script. So the first thing I would want to set up is set up array for which the computer will select a choice. So we're going to have this array which is going to say choices, const choices. Open it up. You can put the 3 choices which is going to be rock, paper, or scissors, right? Wonderful. Then we are going to use the DOM selectors, so that we can be able to manipulate what is being displayed. So we are going to select these using, I would prefer using the query selector. So here I'm going to talk about the player choice display. This is going to be the same as document.query selector. Remember, when you're using query selector and you are selecting a class or an ID, you need to put the dot or the hashtag depending on what you want to select. So for mine, I want to get this player choice display. It is a class, so I need to put my dot, and then I need to copy this class, so which is going to be player choice display. Wonderful. Next is going to be the computer choice display as well as the game result display. So instead of typing all these, I'm going to copy this down. I'm going to name these to computer choice display. Remember, our class is the same, computer choice display. The final one is the game not choice. This is going to be game result display, and this is going to be the same as game result display. I hope this is the way that it is in the HTML. Yeah, game result display. As you can see, we are using camel case, which is always recommended. So let's see whether we are getting these being logged to a console. The player choice display, the computer choice display, and the game result display. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to open up my console. That will be Ctrl-Shift-I if you're using Windows, and you get them here. They're being displayed perfectly, so we can see them here. Good. So the next thing that we need to do, I'm going to remove this console.log. We had built these, we had put this play game, this function, and so this is what we need to build. So function known as play game. Remember that it is taking a parameter, rock, paper, scissors, so we do not hard code that in our script. So we are going to put here as a parameter, which is going to be the same as our player choice. Wonderful. And then we open these up. Good. So if you've learned JavaScript, you've come across the inbuilt JavaScript math objects, whereby we have something like math.floor, math.ceiling, math.random. So what we are going to use is we're going to use the math object in order to be able to make the computer select a random number for which we are going to get a choice for these. So this is going to be better explained using code. So I'm going to have const, let's call this, since we have our player choice, you can call this computer choice. This is going to be the same as choices, our array, which is here. And what you're going to do, remember, if we had code something like 0, remember arrays are 0 indexed. If we put choices 0 here, we're going to get rock. If we put 1, we're going to get paper. If we input 2, we're going to get scissors. However, what we want to do is get the computer to select a random number. And how do we get this random number? So we use these formulas. So what we're going to input here is math.flow. And what does math.flow do? You see that it returns the greatest integer less than or equal to its numeric argument. So math.flow. Then get math.random. So math.random, it returns a random number between 0 and 1. However, we do not want a random number between 0 and 1. So what you're going to do, we want a random number which at least goes to the which at least reaches 2. So what, instead of saying times 2, what we're going to say is times choices dot length, this array over here. So, and this is how, so from here until here, this is going to return a generated random number which is going to be less or which is going to be between 0 and 2, which is the length of our array. So once we get that number, then we are able to select our choice. Yeah, so I hope that we get that and we understand that. So let us try and console.log these. Let's get our player choice. Remember, our player choice is already here. So if we click here, we are choosing rock. If we click here, we are choosing paper. If we click here, we are choosing scissors. So what we want to see is that if we click here, I'm expecting to see that my player choice will be rock, and the computer should select a random number, not random number, but a random text, either rock, paper, or scissors. So let's see if this is going to be the case. So I'm going to input player choice and then the computer choice. I'm going to save these. Remember, this function is already being called as an event handler, as on click. So I don't need to call it. I don't need to type play game over here and put it. I don't need to do that. So let's click here. So we definitely know that if we click here, we have rock. So I expect to see that we're starting with my player choice. I expect to see rock and what the computer has chosen. So click here, we get rock, which is my choice. Remember, player choice. And then we get scissors. This is not my choice, but this is the random text which has been selected from these. So this works perfectly. We can try again here. We get paper, so this will result in a tie. We get, I have chosen scissors, the computer has chosen rock. So for this, the computer will win. And that is what now we need to code in the next portion. So inside here, we are going to say let game result. It is always good to when we are talking about JavaScript, we always say it is good to write code which is understandable rather than have so many comments. So that if anyone was to go through the code, they can be able to understand these. So here we are going to have these variable which we're going to create, and we're going to leave it as an empty string. So for this, we are going to fill it. So we get on to the next portion of our code, and for this next portion of our code, we are going to use a ternary operator. And for this ternary operator, it is going to go as follows. So game result, this is going to be the same as, we are going to start with where the case our computer choice. Remember, we've already seen that we can select our choice, which is going to be the same as the computer choice. So we are going to get a tie. So we're going to start with these. If our computer choice is going to be the same as the player choice, for example, if I select rock and the computer also select rock, we are supposed to get tie game. Our game result is supposed to say tie game. If it is not so, I would want to create all instances where the computer is going to win. So for these, we're going to do this. We're going to say if our computer choice is going to be the same as rock, and remember these logical operators. So these will only, okay, let's finish it first. So if our computer choice equals rock and our player choice is going to be the same as scissors, so these operation will only happen if both of these conditions turn out to be true, because we are using the AND logical operator. I hope that is clear. So if our computer choice is going to be rock and our player choice is going to be scissors, another instance where our computer is going to win, or so this is another logical operator. So or our computer choice equals paper. I need to equals paper. I have just pressed Alt Z so that to prevent the VS Code moving on. Equals paper and our player choice. So so if the computer chooses paper and we choose rock, right, the computer would win. Another instance will be if our computer selects scissors and our player, or me as a player, I have selected paper. Then for these, I would expect the outcome to be, I expect the outcome to be that the player wins, right? So if this is not the case for, so if we do not have a tie game and if our computer is not winning, so what we it's not supposed to be the player wins, it's supposed to be computer wins. So if we do not have a tie game and the computer is winning, then we definitely expect that the person who is winning is the player. So the player wins. So we get to have this. So this is going to be the game result. Maybe you can try and console.log these, see whether we are going to get it. So game result. Remember, I do not need to call my function down here. So if I come here and press these, you get a tie game. This means that the computer selected rock and I selected rock. I want to have another instance. So the computer wins. I selected paper. So this means that the computer selected scissors. Correct? So this means that our code is working. So now what we need to do is we want to get these being displayed here. The choice of the player, the choice of the computer, and the result. And so how do we do this? We had already selected these up here. So what we're going to have is the player choice display. We are going to put text content. This is going to be the same as, you can put player, and then we're going to say we're going to be the same as player choice. Player choice, the choice of the player. Same, I'm gonna copy these down here. Our computer choice display is going to be the same as computer, and for these I am going to input the computer choice. Then lastly, we're going to have the game result display. Game result display dot text content. Now we do not need to have these player here. What we're going to do is we're going to input these game results. So tie game, computer wins, or player wins. Going to input these. So seems, oh yeah, I had not put my quotes properly. So game result. Good. So we've manipulated the text content. So what I expect to see when I click here, I see I've got rock. The computer has selected scissors, so I win because rock crashes scissors. Another one, I have selected paper. The computer has selected rock, so I win. So seems it is working. Next, I had said that I want to implement a score down here, which is going to tally the score of the player, and it is going to tally the score of the computer. So let's build that first in our HTML, and here we're going to get a div, and for these div can give this class of score, and in here I'm going to have a div for the player. So inside here I'm going to put the player like that, and then I'm going to have an inline tag which I'm going to use span. And for these, let's give this a class of player score display. This is going to display the score of our player. Definitely we're going to start at 0. All these are just placeholders because everything is being worked out on the JavaScript end. So I'm gonna copy these. So instead of having player here, I'm going to have computer, and here I'm going to input computer score display, which is also going to start at 0. So we move back to our script.js. If we go back to our HTML page, I am supposed to see these, and I see player 0 and computer 0. So let's first style them so that they can be visible. So we move on to our style.css, and within these, let's have our score. It was dot score. I would want to have a font size so that it can be visible, maybe of 1.8 rem. I hope it is visible. Wonderful. We can have it a little bit less, 1.5 rem. Perfect. And I would want to style these here, these 0 and these 0 differently, so that we can be able to keep track of just for visuals. So let's have and they're going to be different. So we're going to take these classes and we are going to style them differently. So dot player score display, and I'm also going to input another style which is going to give green text. All these will make sense. I'm going to give this color green. Wonderful. I'm gonna copy these, gonna paste it down here. Instead of player score, we have our computer score display, and instead of having our green text, we're going to have our red text. So here I'm going to have red. So what I expect to have is exactly these. So the reason I have put this green text is because I want to add, since this is a class, I would want to add that class here. If the player wins, I would want these to be sort of a green color. If the computer wins, I would want this to be a red color to show that the player is losing, which matches also the color here. I can see here I have my player wins and I'm not playing right now. So what I need to do is remove these, because these is already being given by our game result display. So here there will be nothing. So once we start playing is when it's supposed to, yeah, it's supposed to appear. Wonderful. So let's go back to our script.js, and I'm gonna copy these, which I'm going to modify. We're going to select those two. Going to have the player score. Gonna start here. Player score display, and here I'm going to have the computer score. Computer score display. Also going to change here. Player score display, and here I'm going to have the computer score display. We can console.log and see if we are able to get if only I can type whether I'm able to get these. So player score display as well as the computer score display. So let's go back to the console. Yeah, and together they're being selected. Wonderful. So you select them well, and so now we are also going to have the score, the different scores. So the player score definitely is going to start at 0, and I'm going to let the computer score also start at 0. So having that, we are going to come down here, and depending on our result, we want the score to be added. So if the player wins, I want this player score to be added, and I want the text to change color. So what we are going to use here is the switch case. So if you've learned JavaScript, I know you're already aware about switch cases. So we are going to input the game result as our condition, and for these we are going to use the different cases. So in the case whereby we have the case of computer wins, I'm going to put it like that. What I want to do is I want to take this game result display. I want to have the game result display, and I want to add a class list dot add. And so if the computer wins, I want that text, the result, to have a red text. So here I'm going to add this class which we had created in our CSS, this red text over here. So that is why it was essential. So after I change that color, I also want to increase the score for the computer. So this is going to be computer score, and I want to add to it. And then finally, I want to break out of these. So I'm going to break. Then we are going to take the other case, and for this case, this is going to be the case of if the player wins. So our game result, we are going to add the class list of green text, and instead of increasing the score for the computer, we're going to increase our player score. I have forgotten that I'm using a camel case, and after this I want to break. So let's see whether this is going to work. Tied game has no color, so that is very much fine. Here we get to see the player wins. It doesn't seem like my player score or my player score or computer score is being displayed. That is because we've not yet manipulated the DOM. So it's going to be the same as player score display dot text content. This is going to be the same as, or it's not supposed to be player score, it's supposed to be computer score. You're starting with the computer. is going to be the same as the computer score. And then I'm going to have my player score display dot text content. This is going to be the same as the player score. I'm gonna tap that in. Good. And you're going to try again. So let's see if it works. Player wins and my tally has increased. Click again, the computer wins and the computer tally increases. The computer wins again, I get to, and the color still changes. I win again. We have a tied game. Now I have noticed something. The color is not changing, it remains to be red. So what I need to do is that for each and every click, I want to reset, or I want to remove the classes, the CSS classes which I have added to these. And for that, we are going to do that up here. So I'm going to have my game result display, and I'm going to say class list dot remove. Remember, I'm going to remove the red text if there is the red text, and I'm also going to remove the green text. I want them to be added on each and every click, on each and every new game. So let's try these. I win. So for the next one, I do not expect to see this green. Tied game, wonderful. See, we had not set a color for a tied game, so it remains to be as so. Tied game, this remains to be black. Player wins, this changes. I want an instance where I am losing. Seem to be winning. Computer wins, wonderful. So it changes. Maybe tied game, so this works. And yeah, so this is just a simple game which you can create once you're done reading JavaScript. So there you go. I am going to link my GitHub account or the link for this the link for this particular project. So thank you.